Sonny Parlin, welcome to the podcast.
Wow, it's on, huh?
We're on, yeah.
All right.
Man, it's so surprising to me actually that we're doing this sort of this late in the journey of the podcast because, of course, we were here 1 year ago.
Yeah.
And I think I had so much going on last time we were here that we just didn't even get the chance.
Yeah,
And
you
I
were
didn't know
real
you
busy.
well enough yet. Either,
Well, we didn't know each other well, and you were real busy with your clients, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we still are this time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Good for you.
And I'm going on fumes today, but here's the thing. I was so excited for this podcast that I broke rules for you because
Really?
I wanted to show up,
I didn't know we had rules.
match
right?
energy. Well, my rules, because I haven't had caffeine in years probably. And so I chugged a 5-hour energy before we got going.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, because I was just like, I just want to not be asleep for this episode desperately. So
I'm opposite. I actually I've been having too much caffeine lately, so I've been cutting back.
yeah,
So
I
might fall asleep. We'll see. I doubt it.
I hope not. Hopefully, I can bring you some energy then from what I just did. We'll find out. I think I'm just going to get jittery and upset about it, and then feel sick later. But that's caffeine for me. Or we could find out if I'm truly ADHD, and in fact, I get sleepier. Right?
I don't get that vibe from you. I don't get the ADHD vibe. Believe me, I've met a lot of people. I have over 200 students. You don't seem ADHD at all.
No, I'm a focused person generally. Yeah, it's all right. I'm excited that you're on the show though, because this, for anybody who doesn't know, is where I started jiu-jitsu for my own journey, and we were here for a month, and I said that's enough time for me to really get my feet wet, and dove in last year. And of course, I've worn this jiu-jitsu shirt on so many episodes at this point.
That's awesome.
That is from this gym, of course. So we're back home. But I've been looking forward to it. You
kept up your training, man.
Yes. So over the last year at gyms all over the country, and I've had some great jiu-jitsu practitioners on the show and good coaches, and it's a great thing to go to all these gyms to see different styles. But the idea of a comprehensive curriculum is out the window when you're a traveler.
Sure.
You're picking up tiny pieces. So sometimes I feel like I missed.
And of course, it's tough on you because it's hard. Like whenever you join a gym, you're only going to be there for a few months. So no one's really willing to promote you.
That's
true. You know what I mean? So, which is why, by the way, I know that you've been training consistently and you've been keeping up with it. I've seen the pictures online and everything. And so when you came back, we trained a little bit. I evaluated you and I decided you were a blue belt. And congratulations, you are now a blue belt.
Thank you. It was very exciting for me. And I felt...
of course, it's your first belt. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I felt your confidence in it. And I tried to get behind it. Of course, the first thing I did was immediately doubt myself for anybody who hasn't
standard operating procedure right there.
Yeah. I had a great friend out in Tucson. I texted about this. And I was like, man, I don't know. I don't feel ready. And he had some great advice for me. My friend Kyle, who's been on the show. And he said, you don't actually get to decide that.
Right.
He was like, someone decided this for you. It's not your choice. And so just be happy. And I was like, man, that's the way to think about it, really.
Honestly. And you got to remember, like, you're not competing with anybody. Like you're not competing with other blue belts, other people. It's like, how well are you doing against you?
Right.
And obviously I saw a huge difference. It's especially cool because like I hadn't seen you for a year.
Right.
And so when I rolled with you, like I didn't know what to expect because like you've been traveling and you've been mostly 10th Planet gyms you've been going to?
A lot out west, yeah. 10th Planet gyms, but just like I look for smaller gyms that do no-gi stuff, mostly.
Right.
Similar to this, but not a lot of Gracie gyms, surprisingly. There aren't quite as many in the places we've been for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of 10th Planet.
Yeah. So and so you got that vibe down, that no-gi vibe, and when you came back and trained, I was like, wow, yeah, definite improvement, So good for you, man. You've been keeping up with it. It's hard. I mean, it's especially hard when you don't have someone motivating you. You have to motivate yourself, and it's like, okay, now I got to go find it. And that's, oh my God, there's so many intimidating things about that. It's like, okay, you're in a new place. You don't know anybody. You have to go find a gym, and you don't know anybody at the gym. You're walking in there, and it's like, are they going to accept me? Are they going to like me? Are they going to think I'm a dick? Like, are they going to think my jiu-jitsu sucks? Like, you have all this like insecurities and stuff going into any new gym, and then you just do that over and over and over again.
Yeah,
and that, believe it or not, I think that takes a lot of balls, to do that constantly, because you're constantly testing yourself. You're constantly putting yourself under the duress of training with new people.
Right. Well, you said the other day, you said if we're mimicking the intensity of things, like we were ramping things up and we had to roll in front of the whole class and stuff. And you were like, the first is an actual fight. The next would be a competition.
Right.
And then the last one would be traveling to different schools. And I was like,
right.
that's
yeah,
mine
cross-training.
day to day, you know? And it is fantastic. I think the first 6 months or so, brutal. It was brutal because of all those reasons.
Right.
But after about then, I had a handle on, I may not know every word in this language, but I can speak some of it. And if I can speak a broken language here, what I actually have found is it's been a great way to meet people.
Oh, yeah.
I can blend in. I can go, they know they did know I was a white belt, and I could go and mess around and be bad and whatever, but I made a lot of good friends over the last year from this. And
don't worry, it's not like there's a lot of pressure on you as a blue belt either. You know what I mean?
It's such a wide range is what I keep thinking. I'm like, man, you really...
Blue is the biggest range, I think, of skill. Yeah. Like, you're not going to find... Like, you'll find skill differences at every belt, obviously, but, like, I think blue is the biggest skill differential range because there's blue belts that, they'll fall down if you... the stiff breeze will knock them over.
I've met some over the last year.
Yeah. And then you've got blue belts that are just... They're like black belt light. It's like, dude, how are you that good as
savages?
I know he's an exceptional person, but take a look at Nicky Rod, from the Down Her Death Squad, or what was the Down Her Death Squad. I mean, this guy podiumed as a white belt, and they got his blue belt on the podium of the ADCC trials.
That's wild.
As a white belt, he made third place at the trials.
Well, it's personal, right? I guess.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, the guy he brought a lot of wrestling to the game,
right?
And he's one of the most high intensity athletes I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So when you have those kind of attributes, learning jiu-jitsu, it's got to be easier.
Right.
I started when I was fat, so I don't know.
It's so great to start. I mean, I started, I feel, as young as I could. Like it was pretty much as soon as I found out about jiu-jitsu, within the next year, I was training.
How old are you again?
I'm 26.
That's great, man. I started when I was 34, so
yeah, I have time, and that's good. And I know what's really cool is I know people in my peer group will start to get into this later and later on, and I'll have the head start. Which will be perfect. And hopefully, people who listen to this podcast and my friends, will consider doing it because of this podcast. And I would love nothing more than that. I think it's such a great thing to do.
I hate. I'm one of these people. I don't want to regret things, but I do regret not getting into jiu-jitsu sooner than I did. I regret not getting into investing sooner than I did. But the thing is, we're into them now. Like you're into it now. So It's like, whatever.
Yeah.
I may have gotten late and I missed a few opportunities because of that. When you're over 30, it's like you're kind of a senior citizen in this. They have divisions for you because you're that old.
Well, that's all I have going for me every day is just that I'm young.
Right.
Because you're just so battered and broken up every day, by the sport, that at least I heal up quick and I can be back tomorrow,
Yeah.
Although at first, I think everything changes in that first year because I remember last year I was covered in bruises every day for one thing. Now I just don't bruise. Like from anything, I don't bruise anymore. And I remember almost immediately I got a rib injury that took me out pretty good for a while. I couldn't have any weight on my side. And I think that's pretty common when you first start. And now it's very rare to have injuries on my body that will stop me from doing jiu-jitsu.
It toughens you up. I mean, your whole core gets stronger. And, it's funny. I never got the bruising thing until I started taking fish oil.
Oh, really?
Yeah, weird.
And then you started bruising?
Yeah, I looked like a 1985 AIDS patient.
That's pretty strange.
It was weird. My legs, all over my legs. People were like, "Bro, what is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Maybe I'm dying." And then I just kind of put two and two together. Like, oh yeah, I recently started taking fish oil. So I stopped taking fish oil. The bruising went away.
That is so weird.
Yeah, don't ask me. I don't know. I'm not saying don't take fish oil. I don't want people to get mad at me. Fish oil is the best thing that ever happened in my life. Right. No, for me, it just made me look like I was like dying.
Right.
So I was like, look, some things are worth it. Some things are not. And
it's super strange. Well, now I'm even more excited about the sport because Andrea has been getting into it and decided while we were here also, she said, like, I'm going to do this now. And she wants to get through that hard part as fast as possible. And she's pretty mad at me right now because I gave her the cold that I had last week. And she didn't get to come the other night, and she's still fighting it. Oh, those are fury eyes, kind of.
You probably got sick of him like trying out moves on you.
I don't think she's that mad about that. She's been pretty glad about the fact that she comes in and everything I've learned over the last year, I've also brought home and we've done on mats together. So she has some
little bit of a
basis.
head, like a head start kind of thing.
Private lessons from a white belt who doesn't know what they're doing is what you've had for a year. But it's better than nothing, And it's been good for me.
The couple that trains together stays together.
That's true.
It's a good thing.
That's true too. So now it's kind of, I feel like it's your story now. I'm honestly just gonna keep doing my thing, but it's your time to shine over there. So it's such a great thing, and I never pushed her to get into it. I pushed her for sure to learn some self-defense, because the more I've learned about self-defense, the more I'm like, woof, I don't want you out in the world knowing absolutely nothing about how to move your body or how to use your voice and how to handle conflict. But to do this as a sport that's all her. It's really cool.
Yeah. Honestly, the best thing for women, I think, in terms of self-defense is just, especially if you're not training any kind of martial art, is just to have good situational awareness. Like, don't be one of these mindless people, like stick your face in your phone as you're walking down the street, falling into a manhole. Don't be that person. Like, Look around, see what's going on around you. It's amazing. Some of the viral videos you've seen, or people on their cell phones just missing life going by.
Right.
Yeah. So,
it's a crime of opportunity, I think, to kidnapping or whatever it is. It's always going to be the person who's not paying attention. And that in the criminal mind they're looking for low-hanging fruit. So the person who's aware and walking around, and you see the pepper spray on their purse, it's like, maybe I don't need to do that today, because the next person is going to walk right by who looks out of shape and isn't aware of anything and has big old headphones on, and that's a much easier target. So
yeah, one of my female students started jiu-jitsu because she was jogging down the street in Bradenton in daylight. This is years ago, but some van pulled up to her while she was jogging, jumped out. They tried to take her, and luckily she pulled away and ran off and was able to get away. But she signed up for jiu-jitsu like the next week or something.
It's such a shame that it always has to happen first. It feels like it's like for 3/4 of people, especially for women, and I know there's actual statistics on this. And if you want the statistics, it's in When Violence is the Answer by Tim Larkin, who's been on the show, that women are going to experience that violence first and then try to find self-defense. And it's like, if you could it's an ounce of prevention at that point, find the self-defense and learn these things, and then you don't have to also do these things with the trauma. I feel like coming in, and it's hard enough to learn how to get out of a mount. It's another thing when that mount triggers that memory of some horrible shit that's happened in your past. And I don't have to deal with that. I'm lucky for that.
Right.
But I wouldn't want to deal with that extra step.
It's so funny how disconnected some people are. I remember I got invited to a high school to talk about self-defense. And I remember after going over some scenarios, and, we had mats and stuff, and we were showing a couple moves here and there. One of the kids in the class raised his hand, and I'll never forget this. He looked at me and he goes, "What world do you live in that you're getting attacked like this?"
There you go.
And I'm thinking to myself, bro, what world are you in that you're so sheltered that you don't understand that violence exists?
Right.
So this kid's parents have obviously put him in bubble wrap his whole life. For him to ask me a question like I'm over here telling him the moon is made out of cheese. That's the kind of attitude he had with me when I'm talking about people attacking you, and having to defend yourself. He's like, when does that ever happen, kind of thing. It's like, bro, have your parents ever let you watch anything besides SpongeBob SquarePants? Like, have you ever turned on a news station?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, turn on the 6 o'clock news, dude. Watch it for 15 minutes. Bad shit happens.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable to me that he was that disconnected with the world.
Right.
And who do you blame? You have to blame the parents, right? It's like, how could you raise a kid up to have the expectation that nothing bad is ever going to happen to him?
Yeah.
That's insane to me.
Yeah.
You're literally setting your kid up for the most epic failures that he'll ever experience. And it's your fault, Dad. It's your fault, Mom.
It's pretty devastating.
Yeah.
To think about that. And man, I would love to believe we have it all figured out and we're civilized and everything is great all the time.
Yeah.
But they point to a time in human history where that's ever been true. It's never been true. And I'm not saying that. And what's interesting is that people think it's the same thing as sort of the gun argument. They think that if you become involved with martial arts, or if you own a gun, right, that you're sort of asking for that to be brought into your life. And I think the opposite. So I mean, to me, that's what that
crowd.
kid is
if you buy a gun, you immediately increase your odds of shooting yourself or something.
Right. And I would think that that's how that kid sees it, is if you engage with violence, you're sort of going to be looking for violence. But I think the opposite. I think if everybody had, I mean, if it was in schools, if it was a basic part of your education, which again, in history, it has been for most of history, that you have some awareness of wrestling, of some way of using your body, immediately, I think the likelihood of violent things happening goes down. Because
100%.
People who fight know not to fight.
Also, like a lot of, I teach a lot of police, and once they get to that level of having the confidence that they know that they can grapple and they know they can handle a situation, they don't feel the need to go hands-on.
Yep.
They don't feel the need to pull out their taser, They just feel like, bro, this guy's got nothing for me. Like, I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's what they should always do. I mean, cops need to make their own decisions out there in the street, and stay safe. But yeah, I mean, jiu-jitsu will bring to them confidence that, where one guy with jiu-jitsu might, keep it all holstered and handle the situation verbally, whereas the other guy might get freaked out and pull out his taser. And now we've got use of force issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even if you do have use of force with jiu-jitsu, I mean, it's just so much easier to deal with someone. Ruben Alvarez, he's a well-known jiu-jitsu black belt in Florida. He became a police officer, and not soon after he was on the force, he made a viral video. Somebody took a video of him arresting a suspect, and it was just it was like textbook. He just double-legged him, got him in mount, held him until backup came. And when backup came, he was handcuffed. Nobody got hurt. It was perfect. It was, perfect situation.
That's what you want.
And this guy's a black belt. He could have subbed him. He could have turned him. He could have done 100 things to the guy. Instead, he chose to wait, be patient, just hold him, keep him safe, keep himself safe. Backup arrived. Everybody, they got him in cuffs, and the guy was taken away, and whatever, nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. So, and Ruben had the confidence because of jiu-jitsu to not feel like he needed to pull out his gun, pull out his taser, and get super violent with the guy. He knew he could control him easily.
Right.
And that's exactly what he did.
And it's also a personal journey too. And for podcast listeners, I'm sorry, because we're hitting all the hits of like stories I've told about jiu-jitsu. But the point is, when you have a personal testing ground like this, you've, at least like as a young man, I feel no need to go test it elsewhere, because I come here to find out how good am I, right?
Sure, yeah.
And this is a safe place to do it. There are mats on the ground. It's a great place to do it. Everybody's looking out for each other here. When you go out there, it's not the same. And I feel like when I'm training regularly, my everyday aggression is way lower, because I feel absolutely no need to engage with anybody where I would have, and I'm not a particularly violent or aggressive person anyway, but if someone says the wrong thing to me, it would jack up my adrenaline, and I'd feel like there's something I need to do to prove myself here to be a big man, not to be a bigger man, And now it's like a lot of things roll right off my back. It just doesn't bother me, because I already have a place where I go do that. And the more I do it, the other lesson is, I am surprised by dudes. I'm 6'4". I'm a big guy. I used to think that meant something. I'm very aware now that it doesn't. That there are guys here who are 5'6" who can make me feel like I weigh
140 pounds. Yeah,
easy.
One of my best students in the gym is Dylan, 140 pound purple belt, and he's just it's just crazy how good he is.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, come on,
Yeah, yeah. He's a scary guy.
How can you learn that quick? It's just not right,
He's so fun to roll. He's one of my favorite rolls in the gym too, because he is so good that he knows where you're at, And so he'll just match your level.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's no question who will sort of win, but he'll just like match your level, let you work. He's going to work what he wants to work. And
that's exactly how it felt for me when I rolled with like Gary Tonin. You know, it was like he's so much better, but like he'll play, like he'll give you the opportunity to roll and flow. And when I rolled with Gary, we were in every position.
Yeah,
and it was like, dude, this is awesome.
Yeah,
and of course he showed me who's boss. You know, he submitted me, but he also gave me the opportunity to work.
Yeah,
and I really appreciated that. And to this day, I remember my role with Gary Tonin as being one of the most fun roles I've ever had in my 14-year-long career in jiu-jitsu, you know, is rolling with that guy.
It makes a difference.
Yeah.
When people do that. And, you know, because of the travels, I've gotten to roll with black belts and owners of gyms all over. There are different types of gym owners I've very much noticed, and different types of black belts. And some of them will let you work, and some of them are going to bring a little fire, but you still get to work a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I will not name this person. I'm happy to tell you off the podcast who... And I was very surprised by it. You'd be surprised too by this person who said, "I'm just going to destroy you now," and brought full fire at me. And I was like, "Really?" You know. And I was maybe 7-8 months in, something at that point.
Did you do something to upset him?
Nope. I was just visiting for the day. Wild.
I'm going to destroy you now.
It was brutal. It was brutal, and my neck hurt for days. It was rough.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It was brutal. I'll tell you off there.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that story.
And I don't know the whole story. You know, maybe that's what he feels new people to his gym need, is to know how great you can get at this sport or something. I felt like I already have experience. I know what good means. You know, I've done it. I've been there. I've had guys wreck me. So, you know, I didn't.
It just seems like an odd thing to say to a white belt.
It was strange.
You know?
Yeah.
I might say something like that to a black belt.
I'm not saying he said that. That was the attitude he brought.
Okay, I got you.
In the role.
I got you.
It was very strange. But, you know, you meet all sorts here. And the thing is, again, you're toughening yourself and saying, I'm not fragile. And I grew up so far removed from so many things that I do now. Violence, hunting, and all sorts of things that I've had to pick up on my own. And so this has been a crash course for me this last year in like, wow, this is really what this whole world is. And there's people who know shit, and do not assume you know more than the next guy.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if there's one thing that jiu-jitsu has taught me, is don't assume. Don't assume, like, just because somebody is a certain size or weight that they're going to be any kind of, you know, I've sized some guys up in the past and been right. But I've also sized some guys up and been real wrong. And you know what else I've been wrong about, surprisingly, is when guys come into the gym, or women, and they sign up, I'll usually be like, all right, yeah, this person's going to last. Or I'll be like, nah, this person's going to be here for a month, and then they're going to quit. And sometimes I'm right, but I've been wrong more than I've been right on that one. You never know who's going to stick it out and hang around. Like some of the guys come in with such promise. They have such natural talent, abilities, and you think, wow, this guy's going to run this sport, man. And then like they disappear.
Yeah.
And then like the weak guy that you were like, bro, I was like, there's no way he's going to be able to take even a little bit of shoulder pressure. He's going to cry. Like these guys end up being the toughest dudes in the gym, you know? And it's been my experience that the smaller you are, the quicker you learn. The better you get faster. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right, because I don't learn fast at all in this sport.
Yeah, it's a necessity thing. It's like Dylan. You know, when you're 140 pounds, if like I'm 220, if I pass his guard, he's gonna have a rough day. You know? So he knows when he's rolling, he can't let me pass. Mm-hmm. And oh my God, has he gotten good at guard retention?
Yeah,
you know? It's like, oh, fuck, I got to really work to pass this guy's guard now.
Yeah. No, it's such a phenomenal just sport. But what I want to know a little, you know what? Before I go there, before I make you mad, because that's what's coming next.
Great.
Doesn't
take much.
The thing that has been that is driving me the most crazy about meeting all these great gym owners and all these great competitors in these gyms is, man, do I want the tournament of everybody that I know because I'm so curious how people stack up. Like if I could pair you, there's a few gym owners that I would love to pair you with and just see what that looks like, because I've met some insane
I would
guys.
murder them all.
Probably.
No, I'm just kidding.
Probably. I don't know. And how do you even judge that?
The funny thing is, it's like when I meet black belts to train, whether it be here or at other gyms, there's just like this mutual respect that happens. Like, because when you're rolling in the gym, it's different than when you're competing. And when you're rolling in the gym, there's like this mutual respect, and it's like, yeah, bro, it's like an unspoken thing. Like, we're not going to go ham on each other. There's always that unspoken, like, okay, we're both black belts. We don't need to prove anything. Let's just we'll start off in a nice flow. That's usually how it works. Like whenever I roll with a black belt, it starts off as a nice little flow roll, and then it like works its way up into like something that's a little bit more intense. And by the end of the round or by the end of the session or whatever, you're into a pretty good roll. And, you're exercising and you're going pretty hard. It's always a fun, positive experience. I've never rolled with a black belt and been like, oh, that was terrible. That guy sucked, or that was just a terrible roll. Or even big guys, like I rolled with Mario Rinaldi, who is an 80cc vet. This guy is giant. And I legitimately, when he asked me to roll, I said to him, like, I'm a little nervous, bro. Like my back, my lower back might not survive this. And he's like, dude, I'll be fine. You'll be fine. And I was like, all right, I'll trust you, and we started rolling, and the guy was just like, he could have squashed me. It's Mario Rinaldi, 80cc vet, giant human. But he was like, he flowed. And the next thing I know, like we're having this amazing roll.
Yeah. And
so it's my experience that jiu-jitsu black belts, when they roll with each other, really aren't out to get each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't seem like that. Now on the competition mat, that's a different story. Yeah, right. They're out to fuck each other up. But
yeah, you got to get your school's name, and you're doing it for everybody.
Right. But when you're in the gym, it's more of a hey brother kind of thing. It's like let's meet. And meeting is like you roll with some guy for the first time. It's like now you know him a little bit.
Right.
And so that's more of the vibe that I get when I roll with black belts, like off the competition mat.
Yeah.
It's more of a like really cool, hey, I met a new friend kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I never feel like a competitive, like we have a new black belt that just came to my gym, John Turner. And even him, it's like, I don't feel like a competitive, like we've tapped each other and stuff, but I don't feel like a major competitive vibe with the guy.
Right.
I just don't feel it.
No, the bigger competition happens when you've got like a traveling black belt. And I've seen this, a traveling black belt coming into a gym, and I'm there too. And the black belt who owns the gym says, I want you to roll with my brown belts. That's when you get some fireworks.
Yeah.
Because that black belt is there to, not necessarily defend his belt, but he's definitely going to be like, listen, you're still brown belts. And the brown belts are like, I need my coach to see me do really well here.
Yeah.
I want that black belt.
Yeah.
It is so phenomenal to watch those rolls.
Yeah, let me tell you something. There's nothing like a brown belt who's after his black belt. Like I remember I competed a few times at brown. In fact, I competed the most at brown belt because I was on a mission. I was on a mission to get my black belt. And so the first time I ever tapped out a black belt was when I was a brown belt in competition. And I was just thinking to myself, like, oh my God, I'm hooked now. If I was hooked before, which I was, I'm really hooked now because I just tapped a black belt in competition.
Yeah.
In the gi. Mm-hmm. And he was Brazilian because his coach was coaching him in Portuguese. So that felt really good.
That's an extra intimidation factor. I don't even know what language you're speaking, but
well, it's funny. Already. I wasn't intimidated because like the match before I got my ass handed to me, I went up against Sam McCoy, who is a like world-renowned black belt champion, and I didn't know who he was at the time, and I was a brown belt, and he outweighs me by a lot, and so like I pulled guard on him, and like I think I had him in my guard for about maybe a second before he passed. And the next thing I know, he's in side control, like choking me with my gi. And I'm just like, you know. So after that match, I just felt like I had nothing to lose. Yeah. And I was going to, like my next match, I had one more. I was going to go balls out, and I did, thank God. So I don't know if I would have won if I had done well in my first match. You know what I mean? I don't know. Who knows how it all works?
Well, maybe that's part of it. It's like you're saying, guys who come in and have some natural talent for this versus guys that have no talent for it. I think it's the same thing of like, it's what is it? It's kind of an entitlement factor in a weird way. Like people who, we moved out to Colorado a few years ago and we lived there for a while. And I grew up as a Midwest kid in Illinois. So mountains to me, I never got tired of going outside and seeing those mountains. When I talked to people who grew up in Colorado, it was like they didn't notice this beautiful thing that was in front of them. And so I think part of it is potentially having to earn this. If you have decided you're going to do it, and if you can embrace the pain, as long as you pass those two, thresholds, if this is new to you, I think you're probably going to be fine, because you're going to go, this is a whole world, and all you have to do is take the pain, and you're going to, achieve all these things. But people who grow up with this, there's a different mentality there, and some of them, will stick with it, or people who have wrestling in high school or whatever, maybe there's something that feels like, I kind of already did this, I'm kind of used to this. Maybe it's not as much of a gratefulness thing at that point. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Did you grow up with any of this martial arts at all?
Not really. I mean, when I was in my 20s, I did Kyokushin karate, which, as far as karates go, I think it's pretty tough karate. Just like anything else, you have all karates on all the spectrum. It's like there's karate for kids, and then but Kyokushin's a little different because they have these, like, they're called knockout tournaments, or knockdown tournaments, I should say. And typically they go in there wearing no pads. You wear a cup and a mouthpiece, and that's it. And you're going full contact. And the only thing you're not allowed to do is punch to the face. You can kick to the face. You can throw back kicks to the face, roundhouse kicks to the face, front kicks to the face. All of that's illegal. You just can't punch to the face because it's bare knuckle. Which they have bare knuckle boxing too. But anyway, but yeah, Kyokushin karate, I felt like made me tough. Like it made me, because I would come out of those classes every night with my chest and my legs bruised, because they would do leg kicks too. And so my thighs would be all bruised up, my chest would be all bruised up. But I felt like I was getting tougher. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it definitely helped me as a young man become more confident. Of course, now doing jiu-jitsu, I realize now that it's like, wow, what a better outcome, is jiu-jitsu. I'm not making much sense right now. What I'm trying to say is that I feel that jiu-jitsu is a far superior martial art to anything I've done in the past. And so if I thought karate made me tough, like, holy shit, jiu-jitsu really made me tough.
Yeah, but it's also weirdly a less brutal beating in a strange way, right? Because, I mean, it is brutal and it has its problems.
It's a lower impact art. Yeah, so you're not taking physical strikes unless you're practicing combat jiu-jitsu, but even then you're not really taking you're not taking leg kicks, for instance. You're not taking, there's no kicking in combat jiu-jitsu as far as I know.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So you're still only kind of getting half of it. Obviously, the best way to learn to be a well-rounded fighter is to train MMA. Mm-hmm. Because then you're going to learn shoot boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, striking. And MMA gyms are all different. Like the striking they teach is really dependent upon who they have as a striking coach. So they might have a Muay Thai guy. They might have an American kickboxing guy. They might have a boxer.
Right.
But, you got to learn some kind of striking.
Yeah.
And put it together with wrestling and jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And your ability to close the distance.
Right.
And then there's other things like, wall walking and cage, fighting up against the cage and strategies like that. It's a totally different game. And the cardio for MMA is totally different as well. I remember I'd been doing jiu-jitsu for a while and I wanted to spar some MMA. And I just remember oh my God, 1 minute of this is like a 5-minute round of jiu-jitsu.
Really?
Yeah.
You're ready for that, but this is different.
Yeah, this is way different.
Well, it's cool, the progression of when I first started, I could do 2 rolls and then I'm like, well, I'm done for the day. Yeah. And now I'm like, we'll be an hour and a half in and I'm like, all right, who's next? It's so phenomenal to get to that level. And it's just being able to calm down too. That's such a massive thing. Control your own breathing. Know when you're in danger, when you're not in danger, instead of being 100% tense all the time. And now I know how to take rests in a roll, and I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to catch my breath for a second in
Yeah.
this position, even if it's a bad one. And I know I'm not in that much trouble, you know, it's a strange
and
thing.
thus you become tougher. I mean, that's the thing that makes, you know, I remember we had a guy come in, and this is kind of funny thing is this happens to a lot of gyms, and a lot of gyms will videotape it. I never do because like there's always a possibility you can get the membership out of it. So I feel like if someone comes in to challenge you and you videotape it for Facebook
to embarrass them,
them, it's like, yeah, that's great. You get to go viral maybe, but like let me tell you my story. So this guy comes in, he's a prison guard or whatever you want, corrections officer, sorry. And he's like 230, 240 pounds of muscle. And he's like, I came in here, I've only lost one fight in my entire life. And I came in here to challenge myself. And I was just like, okay, sign the waiver. So I put him with Dom, who is one of my brown belts. And for anyone who doesn't know, Dom is like 160 pounds.
He's small.
Yeah. And I was just like, if this guy taps out Dom, okay, then I'll step in, you know? But it's not going to happen. There's no fucking way.
Yeah.
I don't care what this guy says.
Yeah.
How many fights he's lost. So literally, I tell them to go, and I walk from one end of the mat to the other because I was going to go change the music, you know, where the stereo is. By the time it took me to walk from one side to the other, I look back. Dom is letting him out of a triangle that he just tapped from. And so I was like, well, I guess he's lost 2 fights his entire life now. And the number went up dramatically that night.
Yeah, let's start stacking that number up.
Yeah, and so he still wants a piece of me for some reason. So I'm like, okay, you know, I mean, you just lost against a 160-pound brown belt, but all right, you want the 220 black belt. I get it. Let's go. So we start rolling, and I sweep him, I mount him, and he just taps from being mounted.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he couldn't even take the pressure from mount.
Yeah,
he had to tap, and I was just like, yeah, man. So the guy signs up,
yeah,
and he pays for a whole year up front, and he never came back.
That's a shame, man.
And I'm not even bullshitting you, dude. I called this guy 3-4 times. I tried to get him back in, and he's just like, oh yeah, I just got stuff going on, blah 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 blah. But he never came back. And you know the thing is, it's like, bro, you could have been really good at this.
Yeah,
especially given your size, you know. But egos.
You have to be willing to lose constantly here.
Yeah, you have. That's your whole first year of jiu-jitsu is losing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's more than that, I can attest to. Yeah. Generally being the worst guy in the room is a very common feeling in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. It's just phenomenal. I mean, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like the ego crush of that. And I think in terms of pure self-defense, one of the best, just like situational awareness, you want another one that'll save your life is recognizing how to control your own ego and to be ego crushed on a regular basis, because you're in those situations you're like, I got nothing to prove.
Right.
I mostly suck, you know. But there's so many other parts of violence. That book I mentioned, I told Kate to read it. She's a purple belt here.
Yeah.
Right?
My kids
who runs and runs the women's program and stuff.
Yeah, the women's coach and the kids coach.
And so I told her to read this book because he breaks down violence in a really interesting way between.
What is the book?
It's called When Violence is the Answer.
Okay.
You'd really like this book. This guy
sounds great. I love the title.
He breaks down violence, sorry podcast listeners, I know you've heard me say this, into social aggression and asocial violence. And a social aggression situation is running by a certain amount of rules. The problem is neither participant really knows exactly what the rules are, but you can generally guess a few. Like if someone's in a bar fight, you're probably not going to get your ear bitten off, but maybe you don't necessarily know how that guy defines the rules. In an asocial violence situation, that person is intending to harm you. So there's no pushing and shoving. There's no I'm gonna try to talk you down, bro. I'm gonna try to be tougher than you.
No, it's just an attack.
It's I'm walking towards you and I'm gonna knife you in the back as fast as I can. And I think that opened my mind to understanding so much of what we do here certainly can save your life in a self-defense scenario, but far more that ego crush can save your life more, because I don't know, and people will bend those rules. Criminals will egg you into what you think is a fist fight so that they can get up on you and stab you. You know, they will bend those rules. They will be attempting to mug you, but their real intention is to kill you. It's just there aren't rules, and you have to assume every situation is sort of that worst case. And it's
and just think about
that
that little shit that I was talking to in the high school.
Yeah,
he's probably in college by now because this is a few years ago. So this kid's at some university now, walking around with that attitude, cavalier, like nothing bad's ever going to happen to him.
Yeah.
I hope, and listen, I legitimately hope it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't want anything bad to happen to people. But, man, it's like these women that are like, I shouldn't have to learn self-defense. Men should just not rape. Well, that's a nice wish. That's a great wish. I wish men wouldn't rape too. I really do. I wish people wouldn't be violent towards each other.
Right.
This is not reality.
Yeah.
So why don't you just accept reality instead of trying to change reality? Because you're not going to. You're not going to change the nature of people.
Right.
And there's too many people. Like, what are there? 8 billion people on Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no way that you're going to get everyone on the same page morally. So you might as well learn some skills or carry a gun or do something that's going to protect you.
Right.
Instead of just thinking that the answer is that men should change. Yeah, I agree. Men shouldn't rape women.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a Rhodes Scholar to find that, to come to that conclusion.
Right.
But men do rape women. And as long as it's going to happen, women should learn how to fight. They should learn some self-defense.
Yeah.
If you're a small woman walking around this world, you are vulnerable. Unless you're carrying a gun or if you know some shit, you're vulnerable. Yeah. Or if you're a small man, too. I mean, any of us. If you don't, I'm 220 pounds. If I wasn't a jiu-jitsu black belt and didn't carry a gun and didn't have access to one at all times and didn't have awesome situational awareness, I'd be just as vulnerable as anyone else,
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are the things you need, I think. I think you need, most importantly, situational awareness above all. And then, of course, some skill, whether it be with a firearm or with your body. And common sense, Those things can get you pretty far.
And what you get by training those things far outweighs the effort of doing. Okay, so what am I trying to say here? My point is you get so many more benefits than just that by doing a martial art.
Oh, of course.
The personal benefits, massive. The way it changes your brain, the way you look at the world, the toughness that you'll get that applies to everywhere, to the corporate boardroom. It's just...
Yeah, the mental toughness that you gain on the mat translates to mental toughness at your job.
Yeah.
You won't be afraid to ask for that raise. You'll be like, fuck this guy. I could kick his ass anyway.
Right.
And then you'll go in there and, hey, man, give me my raise.
Yeah.
No.
It's I'm a huge fan of Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote the book Fight Club, which an amazing book and one of the rare movies that gets the book right, which is really cool. And of course, in that book, there's so many valuable pieces of information, like the fact that after Fight Club, everything else has the volume turned down. And there's the great sort of scene where he's talking to his boss, and he normally hates his boss, and now his boss can't touch him, can't influence him, can't. Just he's got nothing. There's nothing that you can do to me. And it's a stoic concept too, right? Like you can only be harmed if you choose to feel harmed. That's a pretty classic stoic thing. And there's a great line from another book. Shoot, it's the guy who wrote Art of War, or War of Art. Sorry. Do you know what's his name? Stephen Pressfield. And he has this book called Tides of War, and one of the characters says, as he's being excommunicated from his country and all these terrible things are happening to him politically, he's like, they've only harmed me in ink, not in blood. And there's so much there that you only get from doing this, from recognizing, oh, this is actual pain. This is what it's like when you're sick. You have so much more gratefulness for what it feels to be healthy. And it's the same thing when you actually experience bad shit happening. Like if I don't tap, this is my death. This is what it would feel like. And then you go, okay, yeah, but I can tap, luckily. And it makes everything else feel so mundane, so stupid.
Yeah.
That's a better life.
It's funny. Speaking of tapping, in 14 years of jiu-jitsu, sorry, I have Invisalign, people.
He's working on his teeth.
I'm wearing Invisalign, and so if it sounds like I can't speak this language of English, well, you're right, I can't. But it doesn't help that I have the Invisalign.
How long do you have to do that for?
Jesus, I don't know,
Like
bro.
18 months or something?
You know, it says 26 weeks on the box, but everyone I talk to is like, yeah, that's just a ruse. They're going to have you in there for 2 years wearing these shits, but we'll see. You know, I'm the kind of person that'll get fed up and be like, take it all out, you know? Shit, what was I going to say?
Yeah, speaking of, I think you said speaking of jujitsu, which doesn't really help me know.
Oh, no. See, it goes,
okay, tapping, being tapped.
Yeah.
Speaking of tapping.
Yeah, it went right out of my head, bro.
Okay.
That's just how it works.
In 14 years.
Yeah.
This is where you were going.
Yeah, I said in 14 years. Oh, that's what I was going to say. In 14 years of jiu-jitsu, I've only been choked unconscious once because, you know, I'm usually really good about tapping and I have no ego.
Right.
But I remember one time I was going with the guy that we're talking about, Dylan earlier, the 140-pounder, the purple belt. Well, he had me in a darce and I was defending it, but I was on that borderline where like you could feel your blood flow is getting constricted, but you also feel like you've got a little space.
You have a little more time. Yeah.
Yeah. And the next thing I know, I was waking up and it was kind of scary because I was doing this like, and I thought to myself, like, because I didn't know at that point as I was waking up that I'd just been choked unconscious. So all I know is that I'm doing this and I'm semi-conscious and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I hope somebody in the room can see me like convulsing right now because I don't think I'm supposed to be doing this. And I hope somebody's calling an ambulance. This is all I'm thinking. And then I'm starting to come to. And then all of a sudden, like I wake up and I see Dylan and he's holding my feet and he's doing this to my feet.
Right.
Which was causing
you to
go
move
like
around.
This. So the seizure that I thought I was having was really just Dylan waking me up. And I asked him, I'm like, dude, how long was that process of waking me up? He's like, I don't know, make 3-4 seconds. And I was like, wow, that's interesting because it felt like about 15 minutes to me.
That is so weird. That is so weird. And it's even scarier to hear from you because I know you engage in messing with your own consciousness on a regular basis and with certain substances. And so
I don't know what you're talking about.
I certainly. You hear that, folks? That's the sound of Sonny's favorite thing. So, yeah, well, even the other day, I felt so bad. You were showing me some shoulder pressure stuff from side control. And what was so funny is you're giving me instructions step by step, and you go, and you're pointing different parts of my body, and you're going, now put this here, and you go, now, and you start tapping my arm. And I think you're telling me, now move your arm over here or something. Oh, yeah. And then you go, I'm tapping. I felt awful because, I know enough to know.
Well, see, I'm smart enough. I'm smart enough to do it early enough.
Yeah. And then that you still have time to say something.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
And I give myself a little buffer room.
And the real thing was I was like, I can't imagine the punishment that is coming to me. Rightly so. If I hadn't, noticed that in time and all of a sudden you were out and I'm like, coach.
Dude, I would have got up and laughed. I would have just laughed.
Yeah, man. It's
that's another thing. I don't I get tapped out, by my students. I mean, they know me the best, right? I mean, I train with these guys every day. And, so it's not a far stretch to imagine that, they get me sometimes, they know my game inside and out.
Right.
And, everyone thinks like, oh, so he just got caught. I wonder what he's going to do now. It's like, I'm not going to do anything, bro. I'm just going to keep rolling.
Yeah.
Like it's funny. Some black belts, you tap them and they come back like 50 times harder, it's like, bro, why?
Well, and that is strange because it's been at least 10-ish years of the ego crush and there's still something there.
Right.
Not to mention, like, again, when you're in the gym, I'm certain you go harder with those higher up students, but it's still not competition Sunday.
No.
I'd put money on that.
No, it's not. Because, in a competition, I attack way more. Mm-hmm. And in the gym, I play more of a counter punch game.
Right.
Even with black belts.
Yeah.
Because I like, to me, I'm more about having fun and trying to trick people into stuff.
Yeah.
But in competition, like, usually there's time limits. And so, like, you kind of have to be, like, on the go.
Yeah.
And you have to be a little bit more aggressive. And so my competition game is a little bit more attack-based, whereas my gym game is a little bit more counter-punch-based.
Right.
That makes sense.
And you're letting your students learn the attack.
Yeah, especially with lower belts. I let them get all kinds of positions on me, and then I work my way out. And again, sometimes you get caught.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes they attack right. And I have a policy with white belts. Like if a white belt doesn't move to me and they do it technically correct, even though I could get out, I'll let them have it. I'll give them the tap because they did the steps right.
Right.
They didn't skip any steps. They didn't fuck up any steps. They didn't do it badly or horribly. You know what I mean? They did everything right and in order.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, you earned that, so
right.
I'm going to give it to you. You know,
that's even sort of, you could argue the point of jiu-jitsu too is the defense. Is Helio Gracie has Hickson. I heard Hickson Gracie talking about this once. How no matter how good he was, and a lot of people say he was the best ever or whatever, he says he could never tap Helio Gracie because that was the one thing. So he may have been able to control him. And
who said that?
Hickson Gracie apparently said this.
I mean, I would probably say that about my father too.
You think it's more of a he didn't turn it full volume for him?
I'm just saying I would say that about my father.
Yeah.
I'm not saying maybe Hickson couldn't tap Helio,
right.
but I'm just saying if it were me, I would say that about my dad.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's probably true too.
I'm not saying anything about Hickson. I'm not saying anything about Helio.
Yeah.
That could be 1,000% true.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying in my case with my father, I would say that no matter what.
Yeah. Just out of respect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I understand that. That makes sense too.
Yeah.
But I do love that defensive aspect. And I do love when I can go as hard as possible against a black belt. And it's not going to make a difference because even if they're letting me work, their defense is so solid that who cares, you know?
Right.
Actually, what's funny is if I'm trying to work defense with like a white belt who I know I'm better than, or with Andrea or something, sometimes I'll let down certain parts of my game, let them have a pass that normally I'd fight much harder or whatever. And then eventually they sometimes get you in a position where you're like, oh shit, I shouldn't have let myself get here.
Oh, yeah.
And that happens too. And I think that's good for you too.
Yeah. I remember one time I was rolling with a black belt and he was so much bigger than me that he just gave me side control. And I was like, oh, you fucked up.
Yeah.
And we were joking because it was about 3 or 4 minutes into the match and I'm still in side control. And I said to him, I bet you wish you didn't give this up. And he started laughing, you know?
Yeah.
Because he knew at that point, you know, it's like, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I am a black belt, dude. Like, I know I'm smaller than you, but.
You didn't necessarily
Yeah.
need the handicap on that.
Yeah, I didn't need the handicap.
Yep.
So, thanks. I'll take it.
Tell me, before we run out of time, what you were fired up about MMA?
Oh, just
you
that
miss the old days.
Yeah, I just miss the old days of MMA. I don't like, you know, it's funny. People are like, Sonny, what are you doing Saturday night, man? You want to come over and watch the fights? It's like, fucking no. No. I'd rather go home and watch episodes of Archie Bunker, you know? I would find that much more entertaining. In fact, I would recommend to everyone who's watching this or listening, there is a YouTube video called The Pantomime Suicides. And it's Archie Bunker pretending to kill himself in all the episodes of All in the Family. So all the times he pretended to kill himself because Edith was driving him nuts. Yeah, it's called The Pantomime Suicides. I'd actually watch that video over and over again rather than watching any kind of UFC, Bellator, or any shit like that.
So what's the problem with it? What's your beef?
Well, it's my job.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, imagine if you're an accountant and then somebody was like, hey, Sonny, you want to come over to my house Saturday night and like crunch some numbers? It's like, no, I really, really don't. I've been doing that all week.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. Like, it's my job. So I have no interest in fucking doing my job on the weekend.
Fair enough.
Second
Until
of all,
2 a.m. or whatever.
yeah, exactly. It's
exhausted after
yeah,
the fights always.
it's like I literally, it's like especially when there's a big UFC with an interesting card. It's like I probably care about 1 or 2 fights on the entire card. And it's like,
and they save them for the end, and it all starts.
yeah, exactly.
Midnight,
It's at midnight. It's like, you know what? I could just wake up tomorrow and watch a YouTube clip.
Yep. Hell yes.
And then the other thing I don't like about MMA in general is just how much it's changed since 1993. I remember thinking this when I saw it first happen. All the rule changes that they started to implement along the UFC, it just seemed like every single rule change that they tried to add was something that was going to handicap the grappler and make it better for the striker, you know? And I was like, okay, so the first rule is now we can't wear the gi. Okay, now we have to wear gloves. Now we have to do it within a certain amount of time. these are oddly things that would make it harder for a jiu-jitsu guy to win.
Right.
Funny that. So I just started losing interest in the UFC because remember, I'm old. So I remember UFC 1, you know?
And you've had Hoist Gracie out here a few times.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I got my blue belt from Hoist, you know,
That's
and,
very cool.
and Hoist was here a few months ago for a seminar. You know, that's when I thought the UFC was something special. Now it's just athletes. It's just athletic competition, just like any other athletic competition.
You liked when it was this pure, who's really the best in the world, and let's simulate
Exactly
a real fight that you'd see on a street, and
with no
take
rules.
as long as it takes.
It takes as long as it takes, and you know, it's like the only real rule is if you tap out, you get to stop.
Right.
You know, whereas in a real street fight, that might not happen.
Right. But it gets sketchy too, right? Like I don't.
Oh, and the other
I don't like
sorry,
the
the other
idea of-
thing. I
yeah.
didn't interrupt, but
No,
the other thing, you ask any current UFC fighter today to fight 3 fights in one night. See how many are willing to do that?
That's interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another thing that they took away. It's like the tournament style.
Right.
Okay. It's just a different thing now.
Yeah.
It's a different thing now, and there's so many rules. They've made it into they've done a great job of it. It's still the closest thing to a real fight you're ever going to find.
Sure.
But they've gone and made it into a sport. And it's funny because a lot of MMA guys, it's so funny how petty people are. Jiu-jitsu guys will call their matches, they'll call them fights sometimes. And MMA guys will get mad at the jiu-jitsu guys because they had the nerve to call their jiu-jitsu match a fight.
Weird.
And I'm over here going, well, what the fuck are you doing calling your MMA fight a real fight?
Right.
Because it ain't, bitch.
Yeah.
Not by a long shot. You got rounds, you got a referee, you got rules, you got gloves, you got weight classes, you got all kinds of shit going on in here. That's not a real fight. A real fight is some guy fucking smacking you in the face in the street, tackling you, or whatever. Just like in the middle of Walmart, somebody's trying to face stomp you, whatever. I mean, it's like fights start in so many different ways, the least of which is one guy on one side like this and another guy on the other side like this, and then some asshole in the middle going, are you ready? Are you ready? All right, let's get it on. That's not a fight. That's a fucking athletic competition.
Yeah.
Yes, it's combat athleticism, but it's still an athletic competition. It's
Right.
not real.
Here's what. Well,
And I'm not saying that these guys can't fight.
No.
Everyone, whenever I say this, people take this the wrong way. Like I'm saying MMA fighters are pussies or something. I'm not saying that.
I think
They are the toughest dudes in the
I think
world.
you're arguing for them to do more. In fact, I think you're saying these. I want to watch them really fight
Yes.
because they're so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to see what they can really do. I want to see Masvidal fight someone way bigger than him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I want to see fights.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to know the most interesting fight that I've seen in probably the last 5 years?
What's that?
Was a viral video of these guys in a bathroom. As a couple of college football players tried to pick a fight with a couple of local MMA guys in a bathroom,
Bad idea.
and they got their fucking asses handed to them. And it was the most entertaining shit I've seen combat wise in years.
Yeah.
There's no fight on the UFC that could compare to that bathroom video.
Yeah. I'm a fan of two things with the UFC and whatever any fighting event really, which is number one, I like that there's more awareness for martial arts out there. Makes me happy.
Yeah, the
Because
UFC's done a lot for my business.
when the
so I
UFC
shouldn't talk
does
shit.
well, like we all do well, and more people engage in this, I think it makes a better world. I think it helps with those kids who ask you those questions because they don't recognize violence exists because they know violence exists. This is popular now,
Right.
So that's great. But the other thing is, I gotta say, like I feel, and I don't know as much as you do, but I feel a little bit behind the idea of having rules that keep people from dying. Like I think that that's valuable. And the main reason is that I feel like something goes away from us when we go back to like a gladiator style thing. I actually feel this way. I kind of have somewhat of this beef with football. The idea that we have this sport and people are fucking dying and having massive consequences from playing the sport, and we're kind of okay with that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
that
watched
bothers
that.
me a little
Did you
bit.
see that Aaron Hernandez documentary?
No.
Bro, well,
Is this a CTE?
yeah, the CTE thing. I mean, they talk about more. It's more about his killings and everything. But basically, at the end, we all know he died. He killed himself in prison. But he donated his body to science, and what they found out was that he had the worst case of CTE in anyone that they've ever seen as young as he is.
Yeah.
So they might have seen worse cases of CTE, but they were in much older people.
Right.
He was the youngest person to have CTE that bad.
Right.
And, I'm not making excuses for Aaron Hernandez's behavior, but obviously there's something to that kind of brain damage.
Well, and I think like at the end of the day, I'm a big fan of free speech and bringing ideas like against ideas. But the whole point is that we never get behind the idea of completely ruining someone. Like it's the same problem with sort of the mob mentality online is that because you have the wrong idea, we want you to lose your job. We want you to lose everything about yourself. And I think that it can go that same way. I know how people get. And when they see violence happening on TV in the UFC or something, and they're behind their fighter in a major way, what I still like because of those rules is that we know the intention is for both fighters to go home at the end of that fight. We don't want to see someone die. But if people start dying, that will change very quickly. And it'll be like, I'm so glad my guy killed that guy. And that's just a different world of violence for me.
And I'm not saying I want to see that kind of thing. But
no, and I'm not saying
I do think rule changes are in order for the UFC because just how about this? Just take away rounds.
Sure.
Just do that for me.
What about weight classes?
Keep your weight class. Keep the weight classes. Keep the gloves. Keep everything the way it is. Just no rounds.
Yeah.
Because how is somebody supposed to work? I mean, how many times has somebody been so close to dying and then they got saved by the bell?
Yeah.
I don't mean dying, but I just mean losing.
Right.
And then they got saved by the bell. They're in a submission and then the bell rings. It's like, come on, dude.
Right.
Now you're taking the reality away from it.
That's fair.
So like the UFC could probably win me back as a fan if they were to just take rounds away.
Well, that's their number one priority, I'm pretty sure, is to get Sonny Parlin back.
Yeah.
So Dana White.
No, dude, it's they don't need me. Dana White is doing some of the most hilarious shit to generate publicity that they'll never need me as a fan. There could be thousands of people like me. They got lower hanging fruit. Because he's out there putting together fights with midgets and shit. I mean, whatever. It's like not midgets, but he's got he's doing these. What was the one but he's been doing this shit forever. Like, I mean, just Randy Couture fighting that boxer, that over the hill boxer guy. That I forget his name. Does anybody remember that guy's name? Randy Couture. It was like Randy Couture's last fight. He got his black belt right after it. Well, anyway, I think James Tomey, maybe. Somebody might want to correct me on that, but I think it was Randy Couture versus Tomey. And Tomey was a boxer by trade, and Dana White somehow talked the guy into do a UFC fight. Like, Randy Couture just literally just a low single, takes him down, and then just pummels him from half guard. Right. It was like, bro, come on.
Yeah.
And so Dana White's always been doing that kind of stuff, And I think before long we're going to see Jake Paul in the UFC.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and by the way, I think Jake Paul beating up Ben Askren was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you ever wish there was more? Gosh, I don't know. Okay, so in the original UFC, and I'm too young to know this, was there more mutual respect between fighters? Because now I know there's mutual respect, but they all act up these beefs. They all so that they get the views, and I think that's nonsense. Is there?
I don't know.
Was there more back then? Do you like?
I was watching,
better?
And I've seen. Obviously at this point, I've watched UFC 1 many times, and I watch Royce, and I look in his eyes, and he doesn't look like he's there to give anybody any kind of respect. He doesn't look. I mean, I'm sure he was respectful. He was sportsmanlike, and that he might have shaken the hands of people and stuff like that. But he was there. He was there to do business, and I think you could see that in his face. And like I remember the fight with Ken Shamrock. Right at the end, there was a question about whether or not Shamrock tapped. If you go back and watch the fight, and Royce was just yelling at him and yelling at the ref and not letting go.
Yeah.
Like, yo, he fucking tapped. I could only imagine what Royce was actually saying to the ref. But it looked to me like, yo, he tapped. You saw him tap. You tapped. You tapped, and you tapped.
Right.
And it was almost like he was, there was a question.
Yeah.
And then everybody kind of said, yeah, we all saw it. And then Royce kind of relaxed a little bit and got up and got his hand raised. And So I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if there were beefs.
But doesn't it bother you when they're fake? When you see these fighters do these press conferences and they say all these inflammatory things, and then right after the fight,
unless they're funny.
Well, okay. Yeah, but how funny can they really be?
Because I'm not a Conor McGregor fan, but I'll tell you, the guy's made me laugh on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
Some of the shit, like, who the fuck is that guy? Like, stuff like that is funny.
Yeah.
But I do think Conor is not a good representation of, like, a fighter.
Nuts.
He's getting in trouble, throwing fucking hand trucks at people. And, just causing.
If it's contained to the theater, fine.
Yeah, exactly. When you start injuring people and, like, one of the guys got injured that night from the hand truck and couldn't fight. And this is, I think it might have been an undercard guy. So this is, think about it. MMA fighters don't get paid a lot of money at first, Like, they get, I think it's like 10 and 10 or something like that. 10 to win, 10 to show, 10 to win. And so, like, if they don't fight, if their fight gets canceled, that's their payday going.
Yeah.
And like, they got to pay their coaches and their camp and their managers. And so, Conor fucked that up for this guy.
Right.
And
I get what you're saying. It can be fun when it's funny too, but at the same time, like, the whole point of this to me is to simulate some version of reality, as real as we can get this. And I get bored by, we're going to do a bunch of theater so that more people buy tickets. And then afterwards, we're going to be like, you know what? This was all Disney. This is all fine. It's actually respect, because I think it's better when I'm always in admiration of someone who says, I think I'm the best and I think you're really good. And I want to take on the best person I can take on, because I think that's how we experience true greatness as humans.
I think it's more entertaining, way more entertaining for me to watch a guy like Gordon Ryan grapple, because he truly is the greatest right now. And, like, for instance, when he went against Wagner Rocha and called his submission, I don't know if you saw that or not.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so he brought out an envelope and he gave it to the commentator and he says, "Open this after the match."
Yeah.
And they had their grappling match. Gordon had Wagner's back for most of the time. Wagner escaped. They had some exchanges, and then Gordon Ryan triangled him. So they went and they opened up the envelope, and there was a picture of a triangle.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you are the fucking greatest.
I understand that too.
You know what I mean? It's like, dude, Wagner is no joke. Wagner's good. Wagner's really, really, really good. So the fact that he can just call out a submission against somebody like Wagner Rocha.
Yeah.
What does that say?
I got to think about this for a while. I'm sure I'll come back to this on future podcast episodes, because this is an interesting thought. Like, where is the theater good for this? And when it's really entertaining and it really is like the greatest, calling their shot, as opposed to when it's just bullshit to get more people to buy a pay-per-view. It's a tough balance for sure.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of shit talk in MMA or in jiu-jitsu for that matter. I like respect. But I also, I thought it was great. I like to see call-outs too, though.
Sure.
So, like, I thought it was great when Gary Tonin called out Paul Harris, because it was a respectful tone, and they had an amazing match. I don't know if you've ever seen that match or not. You should look it up.
You mentioned a lot of fights I haven't seen.
Gary Tonin versus Paul Harris, Taquinho or whatever. Look that shit up, bro. It was a draw, but, dude, the size difference. When you see Taquinho, you'd be like, is this fucking guy crazy? This Gary Tonin guy? Is he nuts? Have you seen this guy? He looks like the Hulk, And that's exactly, but a trained Hulk, And someone who's known for, like, breaking people's shit.
Yeah.
Especially in leg locks.
Mm-hmm.
And Gary Tone's over here asking for the match.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's like, dude, are you sure about that? And he went and held his own, bro.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And admittedly, that was what was cool about Conor McGregor moving weight classes and saying, I can be the best in this weight class too. That's a personal challenge and a really interesting thing. Hey, Andrea, can you get some photos before we wrap Bad Boy?
Wow, this went so fast. We didn't even get to talk about cryptocurrency, but that's
I'll
okay.
do another 3 hours if you want.
No, it's okay. I got to go.
Go.
I got my man right there. I got to bring him to, oddly enough, MMA training at another gym.
Nice.
And, I get to watch MMA.
That's perfect. I get to stick around, I guess, for a bit because I'm here anyway. And
you
get my ass kicked for a while.
You might as well take class.
I know. I came dressed for it, so I could do it. But,
yeah.
Man.
Well, this was great. I hope. I don't know how you do this. Do you put these things out like just the way they are, or do you cut them up a little bit?
Nope, I don't like the cutting up.
Okay, great. So I will sound like an idiot at some points, and I apologize for that. Afterwards here. So
I'm surprised actually at how measured I felt like this conversation was. I thought I was going to get you to go off the rails. Maybe we'll do that another time.
No, you can. Real off the rails I mean, we didn't talk about anything political, and
that's true.
You know what I mean? We didn't talk about COVID and how it affected my business. we didn't talk about any of that stuff. So next time we'll go for the
we'll open things up a little bit.
And,
I'm tired of the hot buttons though. I mean, can I bring one different thing than another podcast, which they've all just been COVID talk for the last year and a half?
I'm so believe me, I'm tired of it too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I get so fed up and get fired up talking about it.
It's a good chunk of why you're not doing social media anymore too, right? I mean, it's just because it's nonstop.
One of the reasons, just for anyone who doesn't know, and by the way, for anyone who's seeing this and already knows me, because I don't know how much crossover there is between our audiences here, but I have deleted all my I didn't block you, okay?
It looks like it because now it says Instagram user on any DMs we had from last year or whatever.
Yeah, so I didn't block anybody. I don't want you guys to think I've blocked you. I've deleted my social media accounts. I have an Instagram. It's at Gracie Bradenton, but I do not run it. My wonderful, come over here into the front of the camera. No? My wonderful purple belt Kate runs my Gracie Bradenton Instagram, and my wife runs the Facebook version for the Gracie Bradenton on Facebook.
Yeah.
But I have no social media accounts. Fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
And you know what? Ever since I stopped being on social media, I've been learning. I've been taking Udemy courses and just putting my time to actual use and making my brain bigger.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm enjoying myself so much more. I'm in a better mood.
I feel it because even from senior last year to this year, you're happier.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Because, dude, this was my routine. Think about it. I'd wake up. The first thing I do is take a shit, right? So I bring my phone in with me. And what do? I start scrolling through my Facebook feed, my Instagram feed, just getting fucking angry. Can't believe the shit I'm reading, right? And it sets the tone for the day.
Yeah.
And then I come into class, I'm all pissed off and I'm ranting. You know, they don't need that. You know, I don't need that. I don't need to feel like that. Mm-hmm. So now I wake up and I'm over here looking at my crypto investments.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Coinbase. I'm looking at all these other things where I have like, little investments and stuff. And I'm just, checking on my investments, making some moves if I need to. Yep. And dude, I'm having a blast doing it. And I'm learning development too. I'm learning how to write code for automated bot trading. I'm learning, the technical indicators and just learning TA in general. So I can use it to trade cryptos.
Yeah. Well, it's just great. People don't realize how much of your time you can have back if you're willing to get away from some things. Whatever it is. So like social media doesn't bother me that much. I don't spend that much of my time on it, but I had to work on other things. Like I used to just stream shows and movies all day.
Right.
That was like just dopamine flood in my brain.
Right.
I'm not allowed anymore. I'm allowed to listen to podcasts now and that's it. Right. So all of a sudden I'm like, wow, my output as a person has gone way up. And we don't realize the things that are just killing our time, just taking our time away. And if you own your time, you own yourself, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I've been able in the last 6 months to do things that I never thought I'd be able to do. And it's just because I actually put my time towards doing them and my effort towards doing them. And I'm a much happier person. I mean, my wife will attest to that, because she has to live with me. So she knows like that there's definitely been a mood change in general. And it's for the better.
It's good, man.
And I don't miss it. I don't. Yeah. I missed it at first. I had a little bit of social media withdrawal. Don't miss it at all now. Don't feel like I'm missing out on the party.
Yeah.
I just do not.
Yeah.
I feel like I honestly feel like I got off the Titanic before I hit the fucking iceberg.
That's fair enough.
That's what I feel like.
Fair enough.
So,
well, I will have some pictures, people, as always, of the episode. I'll send them to Kate instead so she can put them up on
what's
Gracie
the
Bradenton
website?
For this show,
yeah,
I just use my personal Instagram at @THicksonLife, and then we have like Wild Hicksons is where we put everything else. Which is our travel
does
stuff.
that mean I need social media to see this?
No, you just need a podcast channels so you can go or YouTube. It'll be on YouTube.
Oh, YouTube. Okay, yeah, I have YouTube stuff.
Yeah, you don't need anything like that, so you can go watch it elsewhere. But everybody who's listening can go find it on Instagram at TX and Life at Gracie Bradenton, and on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Hit the subscribe button for me if you don't mind. Always good. Thank you, man, for being on the show.
Thank you, dude. It's been great seeing you, and I know you're not going to be here for too much longer, so I'm glad we got to do this.
Me too. Let's do it again next time.
Thank you, brother.
All right, thanks, man.
All right.
And thanks, everybody, for listening. As always, we will see you on the next episode.